Hello and welcome to Center for Victory's podcast of your best day yet. At Center for Victory, we're here to help unlock, reinforce, and enrich relationships through personal and professional development. I'm Eric Guy, Chief Victory Officer here at the Center for Victory. Back again, you might recognize his face as my hype man, Mr. Caleb Kolb.
Some more cowbell, baby.
Okay. Great to have you here. Hopefully we can fix that mic for you.
I'm an amateur, guys.
Yeah. So, have you back because we've had a lot of experiences, Caleb, lately. What you do with your guiding in conjunction with another company, K2 Adventures. You've gotten me and several others back out in nature, enjoying it. And it's been a fun summer. We're going to start today with our first trip. That you talked me into. I don't know if it was like you really had to do a lot of talking into, but it was like, hey, do you want to go climb Mount Fuji?
Yeah.
And I didn't really even do any research. I was like, yeah, let's go.
Let's do it.
But you know, there's a lot of things that go on with that. And of course, you know, what you bring to the table, some of what I bring to the table have been just being there. So a lot of different things that happen, but you are a what do you call it? Trained,
Certified.
Certified.
Yeah,
That's what I was
wilderness first responder. Yeah, and guy
certifiable, but yeah, you are certifiable.
I have the certification in my wallet just in case anybody has it.
So certified guide, and very good at it. Very patient with it too, as far as that goes. But I wanted to tell people about our trip. A couple of different reasons. I think, watching other people, these few trips that we've taken, again, we're talking about Fuji today, Mount Fuji, but we went through the canyon together, and then we went to Montana and went to the glacier together in a period of 6-7 weeks there. But I think the thing is to get people out, right? Get them out in nature, get them going, get them physical, but it's the mental piece too. But it's also the, how you take control of your environment and how to become a better leader. Is that's what we're, kind of shooting for here. But, as far as Fuji goes, let's just kind of walk people through what that was like, because I didn't really know what to expect going in. I mean, I knew, you see the pictures, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think the only thing that really sucked about it was the flight.
That's the only thing you think sucked
that really
on the whole trip?
It really sucked.
Yeah.
I mean, the rain wasn't cool.
I was going to say.
The cold wasn't cool. But I would have taken it again other than that flight. So
it's a long flight.
It is a very long
Luckily, if you guys are ever traveling, try to travel with Eric. Book your flights together, because I've done this both where we've booked separate and together. And when we book together, my bag comes out first. I get extra leg room. I'm like, oh, this is sweet. So
so we made it to Tokyo, right? It was very hot.
It was, very
hot,
and
very
we'd
humid.
See everybody, they'd have those umbrellas, and I'm like, why is everybody using umbrellas?
No rain.
There's not a cloud in the sky. There's no rain. Just because it was so hot, they're trying to get shade after 5 minutes walking through Tokyo. You're like, okay, that makes sense now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because I said the same thing. I actually, even before talking to you about the umbrella thing, I called home and was talking to my son on because I was giving him a view from the hotel, and I was like, I have no idea why everybody's carrying umbrellas. And then you start walking out, it's like, oh, yeah, that sun is brutal.
Yes.
So talk about our adventure a little bit. So
I think for me, and I'm pretty blessed to have friends like you and my wife Sarah that have kind of share that passion for adventure and exploration and different cultures and learning, meeting new people and doing different things. And so when Kevin and Kristen, they are the owners of K2, they had sent out to all the guides, hey, we're gonna do Fuji this year, if anybody wants to go. And I'm just like, perfect, like that's something unlike anything I've ever done. And so for me, one of the things that was crazy is like Tokyo, like just the city itself. I was talking to Sarah about this when we left the baseball game. So we get off of Fuji after just going through crazy weather. We get back to our hotel, and then Toshiko, our local guide, was like, okay, we have 1 hour. You can shower and change, and then we're gonna go to this baseball game. But when we we're leaving, it was a 45-minute drive from the baseball game back to our hotel, and it seemed like the entire time we were driving through downtown.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like, all right, this is downtown and a little, kind of suburb and more. It was like downtown never ended. When we were in the Sky Tree, it was just, if you like Google views from the Sky Tree, because it is just, I could not believe how massive Tokyo was and how clean it was. I mean, like we we saw a little pile of trash maybe after we were done in Tokyo. We took a photo of it. We're like, this is the only trash pile in all of Tokyo, because it was just so pristine. So I thought, for me, I didn't expect that out of Tokyo, and I also didn't do, I wasn't an official guide on that trip. So basically every question that Eric would ask me, I'd be like, I have no idea, man. I'm just here for the adventure. And so a lot of it was new. And so we were able to, to explore Fuji and do that. And then we got to go down into the ice cave and then climb Fuji. And that was a whole experience that I know we're going to get into, but afterwards, and then go to the baseball game and, really experience more than just, climbing a mountain, which I love doing. But I thought, one of the unique aspects to Fuji was just how we really got that kind of cultural immersion into all these different things that we did in just that, 6 days that we were there.
I mean, I really appreciated the pride that they take in their city.
Yeah.
Like the first morning, of course, I was up extremely early.
Yeah.
And I went over into the park, and any little thing that's on the ground is picked up. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure it's not like that everywhere, but there is a sense of pride.
Yeah.
With keeping everything in order, keeping everything clean, and it's their responsibility. Like you and I take responsibility for wherever we're at.
Right.
I mean, there wasn't, we like that little trash pile. So that was the first thing that stuck out. I mean, big time, other than the jet lag. But the Sky Tree was really neat. I think the efficiency, again, very clean, very efficient. That elevator in that Sky Tree, I was like, oh man, it's gonna take forever.
Yeah.
And it's like here it would be like going up 5 flights.
Yeah, it's like, I've never experienced G forces. I'm not big, like, but that I was like, holy cow, we are moving. You get boom right up to the top of that Sky Tree.
And so that, and then what we were there for was to climb Fuji. And then with that, we did get to see some people on the mountain while they were there. I think the big thing when you go to tackle something like that, just like with everything in life, there has to be some preparation.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. Now that was my first big mountain.
Yeah.
And I did prepare. I think I would have prepared differently still, but I mean, every day we were at it. I mean, Tammy, helped me obviously with that training, but I didn't skip a day.
Right.
But it's still, I couldn't, after we got at Fuji that next day, we went out to Tokyo, and I was like, oh, maybe this was a mistake. I can't get down the steps until I can't remember her name, but she was like, if you just run down them, it doesn't hurt as bad. And I'm like,
let gravity take over.
I'm like, that's fine. But if somebody gets in front of me, I can't stop.
Taking them out. Yeah.
But the preparation, I mean, with anything, you've been in sports, you're a wrestler, very good wrestler. That preparation is needed to tackle something like that.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Now,
And you learn that one of two ways. You're either prepared and you feel good, or you're not prepared and it's really tough. I mean, that's kind of I had learned this, but I'd always prepared enough, but then I was increasing my difficulty in trips. And so when we went to Nepal and I climbed a mountain in Nepal, I remember getting back to base camp, and one of the guys on our trip that actually had turned around was like asking me all these questions, and my gas tank was on empty. If base camp had been another half mile, I probably would have just sat down. And so, that's what I got back, and it was like, all right, mentally, like I really need to understand every trip that I'm doing, the difficulty, and be able to prepare for that and how to prepare for that, because every trip is different, so.
yeah, and I think some people just like nonchalantly. I mean, yeah, I remember you were
Oh,
you
yeah.
were going with me. There was a guy coming down, and I'm like, Caleb, the dude's got on Crocs.
Yeah.
I'm like, what were you thinking when you went up there?
And I know we're going to talk about the Grand Canyon too, but it's just every time I do the Grand Canyon, I see something just bizarre that I've never seen before, and so yeah, preparation is key. I mean, that's probably fundamentally for any adventure, preparation, knowing you're getting yourself into it, knowing that you're prepared and in the best possible shape that you can be to complete the mission, to complete the mountain or the whatever we're tackling. So
Yeah, and I think having you there. I mean, I know you weren't an official guide, but having you there and listening, right? Because we coach a lot of people, but I had to be coachable.
sure, yeah,
Right. And I learned that. And shout out to Kevin and Kristen. I mean, you want to talk about good coaches, just laying it out. These folks have just laid it out with each Zoom call. It's like, you have to do this.
Yep.
This is how you're going to train.
Yep.
Kristen keeps always, even when I'm like, now that I've been with her a few times,
Yeah.
and I've heard her on some of these calls, and while we're out, hiking, it's like, do I really want to put a pin in my backpack?
Yeah.
Because ounces equal
pounds and pounds equals pain, baby. That's
and
right.
I'm like, oh, there's Kristen again. Right. But you have to be coachable, because if you're
Absolutely.
not, you see what happens. I mean, we had a couple people that didn't make it the first day.
And every trip, that is and not just K2 specific trips. We do a lot of just local stuff here, but yeah, you have to be coachable. And that's why it's so, I think it's so important for other leaders and, business owners, entrepreneurs, and people that are, they're used to being in that CEO, decision-making role to experience this. And I think it's so fulfilling when you to get through that. And, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I mean, and I did listen. I mean,
oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's not my forte.
Right.
Right.
Oh, you did great.
Yeah.
We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, we did. But I think, for people, one of the lessons of the mountain is you have to be coachable, because it'll wreck you, and it'll wreck you. I mean, I saw quite a few people. Just, you remember the guy that when we were in the hut that was just sitting outside. It wasn't part of our group.
Right. Just sitting. And so just to give some context here. So it had been, if you Google, hiking Mount Fuji, they're all beautiful videos of people having so much fun, and the sun is shining, and there's just this beautiful sunrise and all these colors, reds and oranges. And, so I remember getting in the bus when we were heading to Fuji, and it's raining.
Yeah.
And it's cold. And we're like, okay. And so then we get to Fuji. And so at the first gate, where you essentially get off the bus, you wait an hour just to acclimatize. You're trying to acclimatize your body. So we're waiting an hour and a half before we start hiking. And it seemed just like almost right away, it started raining, and it rained on us the entire time that we were up the mountain. And as you, increase elevation, as you get higher up the mountain, it started to get colder, and then it starts to get dark, and it's getting colder and colder. And just to your point, we were talking about, we finally get to the hut that we're staying at, and we look out, and there's this guy that's just like just sitting like this and just getting rained on, and it's
like hard rain, sideways
it's
rain.
cold, it's windy, and it's just, I mean, I couldn't believe he got up and kept dredging, but it was, all to your point that you just, and that's what's so great about the opportunity to do these adventure things is you have to be prepared, but you have to expect the unexpected and be willing to, hey, I made this commitment. We're getting up that mountain, rain, sleet, snow, cold, windy, like that's the challenge. And being able to overcome that is what makes it, is the reason that we're here talking about it today.
Yeah. And you don't like being cold. You don't mind being cold.
That's
you don't mind being wet, but you don't like being cold and wet.
That's like, I probably said that 100 times. Yeah. I don't mind being cold and I don't mind being wet, but I hate being cold and wet.
Yeah.
And it rained so hard and so long. I mean, the best Gore-Tex gear is still wet. We all got to our hut and just everything was just soaking wet. And, we were doing the, when you're a kid and your mom, you're going out in the winter and your mom put your foot in like a bread bag and then, plastic bag. Like that's what we were doing the second day because it was, all of our stuff was wet. We're trying to keep our feet dry.
And we were going up colder.
And
but yeah, I mean, sticking with the plan, preparation, you talked a little bit about perseverance. You just have to have that. And I think that, doing something like that, because a lot of people, especially the first trip I took, they were like, why would you do that? And the first time somebody asked me, I'm like, I got a little perturbed. I'm like, why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
Like, but it is about like, at my age with what I was dealing with. I mean, I've had both my knees operated on. I've had both my ankles, broke. I've had, so it was a mind thing too, just to have that perseverance, like to tell yourself, I can do this. And it might be a different mountain. It doesn't need to be a physical mountain, but it might be something that you're dealing with in life. It's like, well, if I can do that,
right.
Because I went into the, what was that? 3 weeks later, I went into the canyon and I was like,
I don't even
own
train
this.
for this. Yeah.
I own this.
I think you're right. Like to your point, I think, these are, it's getting that mindset, and that, what is most rewarding for me is doing that in the adventure setting. But it's just teaching you that perseverance, resiliency, the grit. Those are all transferable skills for your everyday life. We are just using the kind of setting of the kind of the adventure wilderness setting to teach people that. And that's what's so exciting for me is seeing people. And I know we talked, it's cliche, right? Like the person that goes up the mountain is not the person that comes down. And it's but it's the truth. When you go through those times where, and everybody does, and as a guide, that's what I like, is kind of being able to be an encourager, and it's just one step at a time till we're there. But when you come down, people really get that sense of like, wow, it's a sense of accomplishment, that's a transferable skill for, you go back home and you're dealing with your boss or an employee or things like that it's going to take some grit and resilience to get through. And
or we had I think one of my favorite things was the young men that I tag teamed with.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that happened, but I'm very thankful for it. But it was just neat. And I'm, kind of talking about that teamwork. When you're doing something like that and going through, you're either going to do one or two things. You're either going to be alone and probably fail.
Yeah.
Or is it going to bring you together? And the relationships, I mean, that's a big thing. Like the relationships that you form doing something like that.
Yeah.
Those folks, I know. I mean, the two young men actually were from Arizona. So when I went back out to Arizona for the canyon, I was like, hey guys,
yeah.
And, but we, you talk through all that. You have nothing else to do.
Yeah.
And I think for anybody, I know I went, to the canyon with Tammy, and that's all we had. We're together. You have to, you're either going to she's either going to push me down, and kick me down in this canyon, or like
You're
we're gonna talk through some things.
Yeah.
Right. But with Fuji, it's that day, and that day was tough. I don't think I've, even after a football game, I don't
Yeah.
know if my muscles ever seized up on me, because I can remember where you were sitting when we were in the hut when we were eating,
Mm-hmm.
because I couldn't get down on the floor because my legs and my back was all it was
That's
spasming.
the Japanese
Yeah.
don't necessarily use the same chairs,
Yeah.
seating arrangements.
Yeah,
that
I'm
we
like,
do.
I gotta get on
Yeah.
the floor after this. And I'm like, you're in a corner. And I'm like, dude, I can't do this. I'm
Yeah,
like, they
like
can help me out here.
roll onto your
Yeah.
stomach.
And again, but like, I did a lot in preparation. Like, to think about people that didn't do that. Now I did, we got up, and even though it was colder, I really enjoyed the second day.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was, so the second day, the rain was gone, which was just amazing. The wind was worse, but the rain was gone, and we were able to, the sunrise over Fuji makes the whole trip worth it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I would do it again. I would go through all that, the sideways rain and cold and everything for day one, for that sunrise on day two. You're right. It was amazing. And being at the summit together as a group, and Fuji's an interesting mountain. It's probably the only mountain I've climbed that there's you can get coffee and tea and ramen and all the
Good ramen.
Yeah, get your noodles and everything at the top and relax. And it makes it worth it. And so
I mean, talk about that, like, companionship, what that means. And I've talked to several people that have also, separate from you're not even around, that have said, like, you're obviously very good at what you do, and they appreciate how you guide. But I think the other piece that you bring in, and then I think anybody experiencing it well brings in, is the companionship piece.
Yeah.
I mean, and we talked a little bit about it with the relationships, but that's important for any climb in life.
Yeah.
Is to have those close connections.
Yeah. It's a team sport. You don't want to do that alone. And I've experienced that too on different climbs. Like, and even what we were talking about before we started this with Tammy, I have a buddy that we would section hike the Appalachian Trail together. And so we've done, essentially Pennsylvania, Maryland, West Virginia. We're into Virginia now. And one of the sections we did was it's called the 4-state challenge, or the 24-hour challenge. But essentially you try to go from the border of Pennsylvania, Maryland to the border of Virginia and West Virginia. And you try to do that in one day. And so by the time we got to Harper's Ferry, we were so chafed. I mean, this was early in my hiking career. I was wearing like cotton socks and like big boots that were just giving me blisters, and just wasn't prepared, but we wanted to try this. And so it's the only fight me and my buddy have ever had. We were I think just kind of tired of being around each other. And so we hiked separately for like 2 hours or something. And it was miserable, and we got back together, when we got back together, we were like, it was so much better to like be with my friend and be encouraged. And that's the same thing for Fuji or any trip, is you really, and that's why we do these things together. And that's what my role is, and our other guides is, hey, you're not climbing this mountain alone, or you're not going through this canyon alone. I'm going to be right here with you from the time that we drop down until the time we get across. And that's not to say, sometimes I recognize, I don't make people talk to me. I recognize when, sometimes people are struggling and they just need some time to be alone. But just to know that they have that companionship, right, and that they have somebody there that's encouraging them. And I think that's something that we all need. I need that too. And so
it's just that, and encouragement and everything. I think what really shocked me, was the view from the top was amazing. I mean, we got up there and you're above the clouds, the sun. Somehow the Japanese have figured out how to get cell service on the top of the mountain.
I can't believe that. That blows my mind. We were in Glacier. You can't get service anywhere. Like cross one line. Nope.
I mean, I'm up on the top of Fuji and I'm literally
FaceTiming.
I'm FaceTiming my wife who's here. and I had other family here. My daughter was here, and then we had like relatives that were here. So I'm up there all bundled up. This way it was 26, 27
Yeah.
degrees up there. They're at the pool here. And I'm like, hey, what's going
Yeah,
on?
let's
Right.
go.
But I didn't want to come down. And
Yeah.
and I think a lot of, I just wanted to stay there. And I'm glad I was one of the first to get there to just really get that all in. But it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
Right. And I think again, you do that with leadership too. I mean, you have to be patient with your younger people. They don't know what's going on. You had
Right.
we saw that. We had,
Yeah. Yeah. You have to, and that's just, I think anything, I mean, how it translates into teams,
yeah.
whether it's business or adventures, every team has a different dynamic, and you really have to understand the team's dynamic. And, everybody needs different things. They needed supported in different ways. And if you don't understand what that is and how to best support people, it can turn into chaos very quickly. And so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing too, I think probably one of the last things I want to mention here is I was very surprised after we got to the top, didn't want to come down. Didn't realize how difficult. I would have rather climbed up again than come down.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it wasn't hard. I mean, it was just some of it was the ground, some of it
Yep.
was just the
Yeah, it is pounding on your knees. Like that was the same thing. My dad climbed Kilimanjaro on his 72nd birthday. We did Kilimanjaro, and he's did. I mean, it was tough going up, but coming down is sometimes just, and everybody's different and experiences that differently. Where there's just a lot of pounding, and it's a slower, and it's and you finished, and you're just like, oh man, we got another X amount of hours to get off this mountain. So yeah.
I don't think so. And then for me, it's like, oh, we got there. Yeah, and you feel that sometimes when you're doing something, like when you're working on something in a company, or you're like, you hit that pinnacle, and then it's like, what's next?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we need targets. Like I had that target, I knew what I had to do, I was prepared, all those things, persevere, and then come down. I mean, it took some perseverance to get down. But then it's like, okay,
What's
really,
next?
what's next?
Yeah.
What's the next purpose?
Yeah.
It has to be
100%.
more purposeful. And I knew what the next thing was going to be. But then I'm questioning myself because, with that trip, even as much as I prepared, um, I learned some things. So there were some takeaways. I needed
Yeah.
to prepare differently, and then Kristen gave me some tips, afterwards of what to do because with my knees, I mean, they just the next day I couldn't move them. They were
Yeah.
completely swelled up. But then when I did the canyon, they were less.
Right.
Like it's that little prep. So learning
Yep.
again, but it's having a purpose, having a target, whatever that mountain is. I think we all have a Fuji.
Absolutely.
We all have.
Everybody listening to this is climbing their own mountain, whether it's figurative or literal. Like every one of us has, things that we need to get through. And I like, to your point when you were talking about, you can't settle on the one thing. You always have to, what's next? You have to have these next goals. I remember when I was in high school, all I would do, I would be in class, like, and I'd be drawing pictures of myself on the top of the podium at states for wrestling. Like, that's all I could think about is I want to be a state champ. I want to be a state champ. And and that's all I was dreaming and working towards. And I remember my senior year after I had won a state title, I'm all excited, and we were celebrating with my family. And like the same day, like same night that I won that title, my dad was like, all right, now I want you to put that in your drawer and, not care about it anymore. Cause you're on to the next thing. You're going to college now. You have these new goals. Like, don't live in that moment. Now you have to do the next one. And so, I think that's good advice. I remember my dad telling me that when I was a senior in high school, and it's still applicable.
Well, that's very good advice. I mean, it's advice that a lot of us don't get. It's like, well, then we just keep, if you didn't get over it, you'd still be telling the story about it now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And you see that too. I mean, you see that too. So
I mean, it's big. I mean, you have to do it. It's because sometimes, like in a company, we'll focus just on that one success and keep telling it for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and then nothing's happening. Nothing has changed.
Yep.
Or what, whatever that is in life for us. But anything else you can think about that
oh
would
man,
intrigue people
about Fuji?
about Fuji?
Man, if it's something that you're interested in, it is it's a great experience. I know K2's already planning their next trip next year. And I know it's going to go fast because they're only doing one trip. You know, we do a lot of Kilimanjaro, a lot of Grand Canyon options, but I know Fuji, they're just doing the one trip with Toshika. So if it's something that you want to do, I definitely would recommend it. It's a beautiful country, super, super friendly people. I mean, I felt embraced the entire time.
Absolutely.
And it's a good hike. Typically, you can do what's called bullet hiking and do it in one day. I wouldn't recommend that. What we did is you can start and stay in one of the huts, any one of the huts along the way, and spend the night, and then start very early the next day so that you can either see the sunrise as you're coming up or from the summit. But it is a really spectacular summit, being above the clouds, and it's like an ocean, but instead of water, the clouds are coming in up below you. And so I would encourage people. It's another trip that it's lifelong memories, and
very applicable to your own personal development.
Absolutely.
Because I mean, I'm totally in different headspace, and I can't imagine what it would be like for somebody who hasn't practiced a whole lot of that.
Right.
Enough. That's what I do. I mean, leadership,
right?
But it was still impactful to me. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, we'll have you back here for the canyon.
There we go.
Let's just talk about the canyon here in a little bit. But that's all for today, folks. Thanks for watching, listening. Please make sure you give this video a like, maybe a comment down in the comment section below if you enjoyed it. Want to hear something else from Caleb here or myself. If you want more information, you can go to centerforvictory.com. And just remember, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, make this your best day yet. We'll see you next time.